Okay, good evening and welcome to the Council Planning Committee and Planning Advisory Committee. I'll call the meeting to order and I see all councilors in attendance and I've got some opening remarks. The Planning Committee is being heard by the City Council Planning Advisory Committee and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The non-elected members of the Planning Advisory Committee are Mr. John Beltutis, Mr. David Joyce, Ms. Catherine Brown, and Mr. Paul Jennings. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Planning Committee or City Council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering and Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any person wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to provide their name and address, as well as the application in which they have an interest in writing to the City of Belleville. And with that, any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Mr. Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I will declare possible conflict with item 3-2, please.
Okay, and can you just provide the nature of the
indirect interest? My wife is a volunteer member of the Habitat for Humanity Board of Governors.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brown, I saw your hand as well.
Well, I don't have a personal pecuniary interest as chair for Habitat for Humanity Prince Edward Hastings. I have an interest in item 3.2 on this agenda, as well as item 6.2 on the planning advisory. To avoid any perceived conflict, I will not be participating in any discussion on item 3.2, nor will I be voting on 6.2 during planning advisory.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. Any other disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move to the public meetings. 3.1, notice of complete application in an introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 313 Old Madoc Road, City of Belleville. Owner is Adam Lee Mitchell. Applicant is Catherine Tran of RFA Planning Consultant. And Mr. Chan, can you present the application, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The subject land is located on the west side of Old Madoc Road, south of Zion Road, and north of Mudcat Road. The south side of the subject land is currently developed with a single detached dwelling. And this application proposes to rezone portions of the subject land from rural and hazard zone to two unique rural residential zones with special provisions as an anticipated condition of consent, B1822. Which proposed to create one new rural residential lot on the north side of the subject land. Since the subject land is also in the Foxborough Swamp provincially significant wetland, an environmental impact study was also submitted with this application. And as such, requested special provisions also include establishing a minimum setback from a wetland boundary. The official plan designation is rural and environmental protection, and staff have not received any correspondence from the public at this time. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. And I've got Spencer Hutchison from RFA Planning listed to present an applicant or make a presentation on behalf of the applicant. Good evening, Mr. Hutchison.
Good afternoon, everyone. I trust everyone had a great Canada Day. The weather was superb. Following on from Andrew's introduction, we have a little PowerPoint presentation here, and hopefully you have hard copies or digital copies in your file. So this is an aerial view of the subject lands. It's a funny parcel that's on the inside of the old Madoc Road curve. And down in the very southeast corner, you can see the brown roof of the existing house. If we go to the next slide. Thank you. So altogether, the property is just under 4 hectares with 527 meters of frontage on Old Madoc Road. To the north are rural and environmental protected lands. To the south is rural residential, and you can just see one of the other houses below the end of the picture, the south end. To the east are rural residential on the east side of Old Madoc Road, and to the west is environmentally protected. And as noted, there's one single detached dwelling on the southeast corner, and the rest is naturally treed vegetation. Next slide, thank you. So we began this process back in February, meeting with staff and Conservation Authority to talk about this property. And in mid-May, we submitted the consent application to the Committee of Adjustment and also the rezoning application following or as part of the application. As was noted, the consent was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on June 21st, and the 20-day appeal period ends a week tomorrow on July 12th. One of the conditions of the consent was that the property be rezoned, and that's why we're here this evening. As part of the submission to the city, we did a planning rationale. Greer Galloway did a very fundamental and important environmental impact study. We prepared a site plan, and we also had a septic designer locate a well and septic system on the proposed severed lot. Next, please. So on this diagram, you can see the retained lot in the south, and in the north is the sort of pinkish purplish severed parcel. And what came out of the septic study and the environmental impact study was a relatively small developable area of about 0.27 hectares that is high and dry and has a 30-meter buffer from the surrounding environmental land. So on the basis of this, what I tend to call a little bit of an island, there's a developable area that you could locate a house. Next slide, please. So the severance would be just over 2 hectares with 355 meters of frontage. The retained lot in the bottom half is 1.86 hectares and just over 172 meters on Old Madoc Road. And as said before, we're in the 20-day appeal period for the severance. Next slide. We looked at this in regards to the provincial policy statement and found it compatible, especially on the basis of having undertaken an environmental impact study that was reviewed by the Conservation Authority, and they have accepted the mapping and the setbacks as were shown in that study. So we believe this rezoning is consistent with the 2020 provincial policy statement. Next slide. Official plan, the light tan colored is rural land use and the dark green is the environmental. And as shown through the environmental impact study, we drilled down and looked closer at this property and have redefined the developable area, which still resides in the tan rural land use designation. So both the proposed dwelling and the existing dwelling are on lands designated rural land use. So no official plan amendment was requested or required. Thank you. Next slide. And then the rezoning. So we have hazard and rural. And both parcels were requesting to go to a rural residential zone and a special zone. The north severed lot, the special provision is to make sure any development is 30 meters back from the wetland boundary. And the south parcel is a second special rural residential zone. And this just happens to recognize the existing location of the existing house and lot. So we're recognizing the existing front yard setback from Old Madoc Road. The house is where it is and nothing's changing. Same with the interior side yard. Because of the definition of lot area, we're marginally short on lot area because you have to exclude the green lands in your calculation of lot area. The lot area in itself exceeds the requirement in pure number, but when you take out the hazard area, it falls below. And also we have to recognize the setback from the center line of Old Madoc Road. Sorry. So I would suggest the zoning for the retained parcel is technical in nature and reflects the existing dwelling. Next slide. So we're submitting this in support of the severance, and we're going to change or request a change for the severed lot from hazard to RR-X1 and the retained lot from RU to RR-X2. And at the end of the day, we'd have the one lot with the existing house and a second new lot with the new house. Next. And if there's any questions or elaborations I could provide, I'd be pleased to do so at this hour.
Thank you for that. Any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Thank
I've
you.
I got a resolution that the Adam Mitchell application B-77-1164 be referred to the regular Planning Advisory Committee meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, second by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 3.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10-245, 639 Sydney Street, City of Belleville. Owner is Habitat for Humanity, Prince Edward Hastings. Applicant is Deb Wilson, Habitat for Humanity, Northumberland. Agent is Nadia Helliger of Three Hills Engineering. And Mr. Chan, if you could present the application, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The subject land is located on the east side of Sydney Street, north of Tracy Street, and south of Bell Boulevard, and is vacant. The application proposes to rezone the subject land from residential second density zone to a special residential third density zone for special provisions for a two-story semi-detached dwelling, which will be as an anticipated condition of consent B-1722, which proposed to sever to create one new residential lot. Majority of the requested special provisions relate to permit the proposed semi-detached dwelling in accordance with the zoning bylaw definition, but also includes relief to the irregular interior side yard. The official plan designation of the subject land is residential, and staff have not received any correspondence from the public regarding this application at this time. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have Curtis Brugdenhill is going to make a presentation as part of the applicant.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Yes, Nadia from our office has this is her project. She has done the application, but she is on vacation, so I get to do the presenting. This is what was a single family dwelling lot, and Habitat for Humanity has come across this property, and they are looking to sever the property to create 2 semis. Next slide. The address, Sydney Street. It's on the north end of Sydney, south of Bell Boulevard, north of the last residential lot on the east side, and south of a proposed, I believe it's a townhouse. It's an R5 zoning that's going to the north. We're looking to go to an R3, as mentioned, which would allow for the semi-detached. The interior side yard, there's a small reduction on one of the interior side yards, less than the 3 meters per the zoning. Next slide. Currently it's vacant. The official plan was residential, existing residential, proposed residential, and moving to the R3. Next slide. Here's a proposed site plan that we have come up with. The semi-detached will be a 2-story and no garage units, and the setbacks on the south side where we drew the lines a bit wrong, but they're supposed to be 3 meters, and so that would be the one relief for the side yard setback on the south side. The zoning, the area for the lot coverage is well below the minimum, and all the parking is accommodated for on site. Next slide, sorry. There's a zoning matrix, and yeah, everything meets the zoning requirements aside from that one south side yard setback at 2.8 rather than the 3 meters required. Next slide. So servicing is more of the interest with this property, being that it was a single family dwelling on there originally. There is only one proper sanitary service and water lateral. So our proposed servicing, we've been working with the city engineering and the city departments to come up with these proposals. And what we have is lot 1 will be serviced by the existing water lateral. Lot 2 will be serviced through a sanitary lateral that will connect to a manhole that will then go to the existing sanitary lateral. The south unit will have a water lateral that will go along the sidewalk on the east side, and it ties into a 8-inch 200 millimeter service that's coming into that future R5 residential area. The sanitary service comes and goes to that manhole on lot 1, where they share the sanitary connection through the street. There's a bit of a dashed line, sort of an L shape on either side. Those represent easements for the servicing and entrance. We have one shared entrance for the property. This is due partly to the servicing that was available. There's a fire hydrant. You can see there just to the north of the driveway. And then there's a hydro pole to the south of the driveway, and 2 driveways or 2 entrances would have been quite an undertaking. Next slide. Oh, sorry, last item, stormwater. There's an existing catch basin on the south side that was installed, I believe installed anyways, with the Sydney street work, and the drainage for the lot will not change as much and will be directed towards that catch basin. All right, next slide. Provincial policy statement. The proposed dwelling is in the urban settlement area. It's an opportunity for some infill and promote affordable housing. There's no environmental areas. There's no natural heritage features around the lot. It's a vacant, empty, clear lot. We have municipal services nearby. No agricultural next slide. Oops, sorry. Again, yes, no natural hazards, erosion, floodplains, nothing to that effect. No man-made stuff. Next slide. The official plan. This proposal falls within the official plan, and it will be an R3 that's on the south side neighboring an R2 and on the north side neighboring an R1. And it's felt that there's a natural transition between the lower and higher densities. Next slide. The construction of the semi is compatible with the adjacent land use and housing types. Most of Sydney Street is single families or duplexes, and this side-by-side semi-detached falls within their housing types. Next slide. Oh, I've made it to the end of the slides. So yeah, just want to reiterate that Habitat would like to rezone and sever this property. The rezoning is condition of the severance, which went back in May, and so we're looking for that approval. They're just looking to maximize the use of this land. It's a large lot for a single family, and so yeah, looking to sever it and create two semis is the best use of that land for them to help the neighborhood or the community, and for the general housing that everyone needs. If there's any other questions, feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Rugenhill. Any questions from committee members? I see that Deb Wilson and Nazem Kudsi is also listed if there's any questions. Pretty straightforward. Seeing none. Okay, thank you. I got a resolution that the Habitat for Humanity application B-77-1165 be referred to the regular planning advisory committee meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Feeney, second by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Alsop, Councillor Feeney, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee. Everyone's in attendance except for Mr. Beltudis, who sends his regrets. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. I know Ms. Brown and Mr. Jennings have both declared on a 6.2. Any other disclosure of pecuniary interest? Just to play it safe? No? Okay. Reading and confirmation of the minutes of a resolution at the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on June 6, 2022 be approved. Moved by Mr. Joyce, second by Ms. Brown. All in favor? That's carried. No deputations. Correspondence. Can I get a motion to receive correspondence received by the City Clerk's office? Councillor Sanderson, second by Councillor Feeney. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 3014. 313 Old Madoc Road, City of Belleville. Owner is Adam Lee Mitchell. Applicant is Catherine Tran from RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. File number is B-77-1164. Resolution reads that report number PP-2022-27 dated July 4th, 2022 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 313 Old Madoc Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Councillor Alsop, second by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.2 and note the two conflicts. Notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10-245. 639 City Street, City of Belleville. Owner is Habitat for Humanity, Prince Edward Hastings. Applicant is Deb Wilson of Habitat for Humanity, Northumberland. Agent is Nadia Helger of Three Hills Engineering, and file number B-77-1165. Resolution is that report number PP-2022-28 dated July 4th, 2022, regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 639 Sydney Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Mr. Joyce. Any questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to reports. 7.1 staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10245, 318 Coleman Street, City of Belleville. Owner is Jacob Stewart. Agent is Adia Cervanas of Echo View Consulting Services. File number is B-77-1146. And the resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1146 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended for 318 Coleman Street, City of Belleville be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended be amended to rezone the subject land from residential 4th density R4 zone to a residential 6th density R6-38 zone with special provisions to reduce the parking requirement, minimum front yard for a parking area, minimum north interior side yard, and width of landscaping strip for parking areas and internal driveways, and to recognize the existing lot frontage, lot area, and front yard. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Alsop, seconded by Ms. Brown. Any questions or comments on this one? See none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 7.2 staff recommendation report for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 10245, 266 and 268 Moira Street East, City of Belleville. Owner is G. Sakan Investments Limited. Agent applicant is Task Force Engineering Incorporated, and file number is B-77-1163. The resolution reads that application B-77-1163 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended for 266 and 268 Moira Street East, City of Belleville be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 10245 is amended, be amended by rezoning the subject land from nursing home NH-5 zone to residential 6th density R6-39 zone with special provisions to increase the permitted building height to 11.4 meters and reduce the required distance between the proposed building and the driveway from 7.5 meters to 5.5 meters to facilitate the development of a 3-story, 36-unit apartment building, and that a holding H symbol be applied to the zoning until such time as the applicant has addressed all comments and concerns to the satisfaction of the Canadian National Railway. I get somebody to move that, please. Councillor Sanderson, second by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments on this one? Councillor Feeney.
Thank you, Chair. I was very happy that, we have been listening to a lot of public input on this issue and results of, coming back that looking at more preservation of trees and whatever, but there is still the issue of the hoe hammering and the disruption of people's lives around that. So I'd like to ask the question, what is it that the city can ensure that to keep this hoe hammering to a reasonable tolerance level?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Deming, I saw your camera activated.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Councillor Feeney. Generally, I guess there's two concerns. One is the noise, and then the other is the vibration. In terms of noise, all construction is limited by the city's noise bylaw, which restricts construction between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday and excludes holidays. In terms of the vibration, generally when there's a construction project such as this, it must be done in accordance with Ontario Regulation 213/91, which is construction projects under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which doesn't discuss this. Generally in situations like this, the owners do their own due diligence through property surveys to ensure that any work for their own liability is covered on that. I did speak to our approval section. They confirmed that throughout their experience, these aren't included in site plan agreements. They are left for the developer to do their own due diligence, ensure that any work that they're doing is not creating a liability for them. Because again, when you're in a situation where it's private property owners with another private property owner, it is a civil matter. So it really is their responsibility to ensure that they are covered on that.
Thank you for your response. So basically what we're saying to the people that are around the area, should this go forward, to give them guidance, to do their due diligence and make sure that they can assess their properties, have, I guess, evidence, the fact that before construction, there was no cracks and there might be cracks. I don't know. I just think as a homeowner in that area, I'm trying to find a way to give people assurance that they do have some kind of recourse here.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Feeney. There obviously is recourse if there is ever property damage from one private owner to another private owner. They do have that civil liability. This would be similar to any other situation. And just for I guess the added benefit is the limestone bedrock is something that is very prevalent throughout the Belleville area and is something that almost all development deals with.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to information matters, resolution that the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report to July 4th, 2022 be received. Councillor Alsop, Councillor Sanderson, any questions or comments on those? See none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Any items for general business? See none. Just let everybody know that our next meeting, Tuesday, August 2nd, will be in person in council chambers. And with that, I've got closing remarks. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Feeney, Councillor Kelly, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Take care.